That's multitasking right there. Hey, Jay.
Kind of talk about, just what you getting accomplished here one day, the second day.
Yeah, I think you get your rhythm back as a coach. Being out there coaching guys through situations, looking at, your plays look different with the players on the floor and the coaches on the floor. In the summertime, it's two different things. And so seeing the players out there with that kind of speed and athleticism makes your plays look a bit different. And it's certainly gotten us back into the defensive mindset. We've been practicing and coaching defense nonstop. And obviously, we want to get guys their legs back and get their lungs back in NBA shape. Nobody's in NBA shape right now, so that's one of the few things we're trying to accomplish right now.
Has the lack of returning veterans affected your approach at all in terms of how technical you get at what you install, or you just keeping it really basic early on in training camp?
We have, Randy coached during the last lockout, and he talked about the importance of simplifying what you do. Try to do that to the best of your ability, and not having, X number of vets certainly makes you lean towards less. And we've taken a lot of stuff out of our packages for this particular moment. If you have more veterans, it does lend to putting more stuff out there on the floor in all three facets of the game, offense, defense, and transition. So we're going to try to be as simple as we can, and we may have to add stuff during games. Sometimes you can add an ATO after timeout play during a game and then make it a part of your offense the next day in practice.
You mean a preseason game or a real game? Really?
Both. We only have a couple preseason games, and those preseason games are going to be, I imagine the first one won't be the prettiest exhibition of basketball ever seen. So our goal is to continue to get better, and guys are more than able to adapt to the situation.
Coach, at what point does the Paul situation start to hinder your preparation for the season, which is starting in several weeks here?
It doesn't.
It's kind of like an injury, isn't it, really? There's no one's guaranteed whether they're under contract and happy or unhappy. Is that right?
Say that again?
No one member of your roster is guaranteed whether they're under contract, regardless of their contract situation or their happiness, because even if they love it here and want to play here, if they tear their ACL tomorrow, then you're in the same situation if he's traded tomorrow, or worse, right?
I don't know. I think when you're coaching, you certainly don't think of that scenario. And I got to be frank with you guys. I've gone into coaching mode. I spent a lot of time with Dell the past couple of weeks talking about a lot of things. And once the season starts, I certainly don't go through that many scenarios, and it certainly doesn't graduate to that point in my head. So there's not a lot going on in my brain anyway to get to that point. So I couldn't give you a straight answer on that.
Do you have 3 different plans in play if such and such works out, or you bring in some veteran free agents? Do you have some scenario plans?
Yeah, I do. And I think you would do that. We go into this season with 5 guys under contract, so you have to have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. We just happen to have some other stuff going on that lends to adding maybe plan G and H. So it requires you to make adjustments on the fly, and I'm going to be relying on our staff to help me out and navigate through some of these muddy waters.
Has there been any talk of limiting Paul in practice in light of the recent trade rumors, if you will?
No.
So, yeah, I guess you're saying it's complicated because the possibility of a trade could throw all of your free agent priorities out of whack. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think about the possibilities, but at the same time, if I go too far with that, it takes away from what I have to do the next day. So, yeah, I've thought about, okay, what am I going to do if this happens? What am I going to do if we have this group? What am I going to do if something else? I've thought about that. But I can only take that thought so far because I have what I have today. What it does do is it limits how you build with the group you have now, because there is the idea that it might change.
And what are the practical implications of that limitation for the regular season? Do you just say, well, it's a long season, we'll figure it out eventually and we'll be fine by the playoffs, or are you legitimately, should people be legitimately concerned about, how effective you can be early in the regular season when you're limited?
I don't want anybody to be concerned about us in that regard. We've been a no excuses, no explanation team since I got here. We're not going to make any excuses about the situation. It is what it is. We get paid a lot of money to do our jobs, and I'm just not going to allow excuses to creep into the way I think about this game. I've always felt like the guys you have, you prepare them the right way, you have a chance to win games. And so I'm certainly not going to give our fans pause. And I don't want them to be concerned about our team in that regard. We're going to go out and defend, rebound, run with the purpose, and value the basketball every single night.
Have you been able to speak to any free agents your own, like Bellinelli, David West, Landry?
Yeah.
Had those conversations, maybe. What do you want to make about him?
Mine's is a bit different than Dell's. I can call the guys and just say hi, and talk to them about how much you want them to come back, how much I want them to come back. And I get a pass because I don't have to talk about years and dollars. I don't have to talk about that. If it was up to me, we just put the money in the pot and divvy it up. It doesn't work out that way, but I've talked to a number of guys, and people would be amazed at how many guys are itching to get back here in New Orleans. I think our fans would be happy if they knew about that stuff, and I think they will once guys start coming back.
So you can sell scheme, role, vision for them.
You try to, yeah. I mean, I talk about building off of what we did last year, and that, to me, that's the sad part about all this stuff that's going on. Nobody's talking about building on what we did last year. Everybody's talking about all this other stuff, and that just gets lost. All past 6 months, whatever, we talked about the lockout and Dallas won a championship. Nobody's talking about that. Unfortunately, things get lost, and not in translation, they just get lost in these muddy waters.
There's probably a natural inclination for the average fan, because we don't have a sophisticated understanding, as you do, to think, well, if the superstar is gone, then they will be rebuilding, and so, it's like almost like starting over and not building off of it. And that's probably a misnomer, so maybe you can explain why that would be wrong.
I think there's a number of approaches that you can take when you have a different squad on the floor, depending on who that guy is, who you lose, who you get back. We tend to believe that whoever we have, and it could be just me and my blind confidence, we tend to believe that no matter who you have, if you prepare the right way, you got a chance to win. Obviously, guys who play at an elite level have more to bring to the table, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We haven't gotten there yet. It's just a lot of speculation, blogging, and tweeting, which makes me want to, I'd rather tongue kiss a maggot than tweet or blog.
Unbelievable. Quote of the day.
So,
it made the national news.
I really would. I don't know how guys find time to, hey, I'm tying my left shoe. Here goes the right. Stay tuned for details. It's like, I don't understand that.
Can you talk at all about Quincy Pondexter and what sort of improvements he made over the summer?
We don't know yet. We haven't gotten up and down enough to see him. I know he's in unbelievable shape. He's changed his shot a bit. We're looking for him to be a solid reserve. Can he steal some minutes at the 2 and 3 spot? and prove that you belong on the floor. Because I think a guy like Quincy, if he proves that he can steal minutes, we'll try to find places to put him on the floor. And he hasn't done that yet, not as a rookie. He's looking to get consistent minutes. I think he's up for the challenge, but he's got some work to do for sure.
You mentioned last summer that you thought he was a guy who could potentially guard the 1 through 3 spots in the NBA. Do you still feel that?
I do. I really believe that if he really understood schemes and understood not only his position but the positions behind him, he could guard a number of positions. He's got the athletic ability. He's got the toughness. Now he needs the know-how and the savvy. He doesn't have a reputation with the referees, and so that hurts him. So there's a number of things that I think will help him once he understands the league.
Thanks.
Thank you.
He also changes.